Election Day is Tuesday, November 6th, and CMU Public Broadcasting again brings you Meet the Candidates, the election year series that gives you the chance to meet those seeking state and national office.
Support of WCMU is provided by Flint Institute of Arts, presenting Drawing Together International Cartoons. The exhibition features 300 cartoons from the Iden-Doan Foundation International Competition and runs through December 30th. FlintArts.org.
Welcome again to this edition of Meet the Candidates. I'm David Nicholas, and we are joined this time by Representative Joel Johnson. He is a Republican from Michigan's State House District number 97. He is seeking re-election to a second term in that office. Representative, thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me, Dave.
Our title is Meet the Candidates, a chance for you as an incumbent to sort of re-meet some of those constituents and let them know a little bit about your background and experience that you bring to the campaign.
Very good. Well, I'm happy to do that. As many know in my area, I used to manage Johnston Elevator in Clare for about 21 years, other agricultural businesses before that. So about 35 years in agricultural business. Had an opportunity to work with legislators on behalf of agriculture for both the Michigan Agribusiness Association and Farm Bureau a little bit. And the more I did that, the more I realized that we need some people with agricultural backgrounds, people with business experience, and just strong family values and community values. And so that's why I decided it was important for me to run for the legislature, and happy that I've been able to serve and honored for a couple of years in doing that. We've been able to get some good things done and looking forward to doing more good things.
A chance to sort of bring people up to speed on the district itself, what you campaigned for in 2010, then with the census and the districts being redrawn. How is that district is different now, or are the changes coming as you are campaigning for a second term?
Okay, yeah, there will be changes as of the 1st of next year because people always keep the representative whom they've elected until the end of that term. So I keep my full district the way it has been until the end of this year. And what changes is that I lose the northern half of Bay County, which I have now, and pick up the eastern half, roughly, of Osceola County. So I continue to keep Clare, Gladwin, and Aranac counties. And as of next year, will represent the eastern half of Osceola.
So for those areas, all in District 97, what do you identify as we proceed in this campaign of 2012 as the primary issues of this campaign?
Well, Dave, one of the biggest issues is jobs. I've had the experience of having a daughter leave the continental United States for work, and many of our people have had relatives leave for work, and we want them to be able to stay here. And it's really important that we create an atmosphere in which jobs are easy to provide for people, and also to create an atmosphere where our students are getting the education that they need to fulfill those jobs.
Two issues there, and we'll focus a little bit more closely on both, but first in terms of the issues as a whole, those economics that you referred to, what in a first term would you point to running now as an incumbent and running on your record that you would say legislatively, either as a sponsor or a primary supporter of bills that have been passed in this term that we're wrapping up, that you would point to that addressed those particular concerns?
Well, several things. We've worked really hard to get the spending down by government. I ended my own retirement health care as well as other legislators. In the past, you only had to serve as a legislator for 6 years to receive your retirement health care from 55 until you were on Medicare. And nobody else is getting that. So we were able to eliminate that. We were able to put a limit on the amount that the government can spend on health care for and benefits for its current employees. And we've also worked to cut our budget in the House. We've cut our own salaries. And so we're trying to get government spending down so that we can reduce taxes to our people and to our companies and so forth. So it's a friendlier place for people to be. And one of the big things that we were able to do was to eliminate the Michigan business tax. And that's a big deal. And the biggest part of that was to eliminate this for our small businesses, the LLCs, people who are our next door neighbors, who have a little heating and cooling business, a building business, things that provide probably 80% of the jobs in Michigan, these small businesses provide. In the past, these business owners were paying the Michigan business tax, a surcharge, and then paying as individuals on the income that comes through. Now, they only have to pay as individuals instead of being double taxed. And this is a big benefit to help them to be able to provide more jobs for our people in Michigan. On the same token, we've been able to set it up to where our C corporations pay 6% of their profits. So the larger businesses are paying 6% of their profits on income. And in the past, what was happening was that we had certain businesses who were deemed the favorites, if you will, who received certified tax credits that they provided them a big cut or sometimes a total exemption from having to pay the Michigan tax. I didn't think that was fair, and most of us don't think that's fair because other people have to make up for that. And so now it's an across the board as soon as we take care of those commitments that have been in place. But it's an across the board 6% on profits. It's fair for everyone. And this will help job creators in Michigan. At the same time, we did some things to update workman's compensation and other issues to make it friendly for employers in Michigan. We're still working on cutting red tape. We've been able to do some of that. The opportunities that employers have in Michigan are really much better than they used to be.
And when you say, and phrase it as you did, things that you're still working on, were there particular things that you wanted to see come through in a first term that likely will not be enacted by the time the term expires, things that you would specifically reintroduce first out of the blocks if re-elected to a second term to continue that work or build upon some of these things?
We have some things that we're disappointed that we haven't seen through yet, but we haven't given up. We will have a busy session period from the time of the election until the first of the year, and we're still trying to get some of those things through, and we'll continue to work on those efforts. Education, I think you were going to mention that anyway, so one of the big things that I'm working on is vocational education opportunities for our students. We have the Michigan Merit Curriculum that's been enacted that provides that all students have to be ready for 4 years of college. Well, that's great, and it's good for a lot of kids, but there are a lot of students who are just not going to do a 4-year college program. And I think we're doing them a disservice by filling up their curriculum time during their 4 years of high school and not allowing them vocational time. So I've got a really simple bill that just says that with the permission of administrators and parents, a student can replace any of those high-level college prep classes such as Algebra 2, English 4, Science 4, online learning requirements, and second-year foreign language. Any of those can be replaced with a vocational class. And I think those are very beneficial. When you look at the mitalent.org website, there's 80,000 jobs on there that are not being filled because we don't have people trained for those.
Does this circle back around to during the prior governor's administration when we revamped the curriculum and put in new graduation requirements? This sounds as if this is a direct response to things that were put in place then when the concern was put forth then that we were basically a state coming out of a manufacturing-dominated economy that was full of people that could do a certain level of work, but we didn't have enough that were at that higher level. How are we balancing or rebalancing then that workforce as you see it with that proposal?
Well, the idea is not to water down the education that's out there. It's important that we have students that are trained to a high level. But I think that it's an opportunity for these students to have a choice and still receive their diploma rather than a certificate of completion because they didn't do this Michigan Merit Curriculum. And, you know, if a student chooses to go on for engineering or other high-level educated jobs, by all means, let's educate them to the best of our ability to meet those requirements. And let's make sure they are ready for college. But on the other hand, if a student is more suited to a high skill level program, which we still need a lot of those jobs, welders and builders and auto mechanics, all those things, we need to make sure that they have an opportunity to do that, rather than saying, hey, you know, I know that what you want to do is a program that you could just do a short-term training that would help you get that job. You don't need 4 years of college, but we're telling you that you have to prepare for it anyway and think about taking on a big debt and, you know, those sorts of things. I think that's a disservice to the students. If they can start learning those things in high school, they can make a choice, or at least be more educated on, hey, you know, I did some work in high school in welding or auto mechanics, and yes, I do like that. I'd like to go further with that, or that really wasn't for me. I want to go further from here. And some of these students also are not motivated by these high-level classes such as Algebra 2 and so forth. Some of them, I feel, will have a tendency to just turn off when we don't allow them to do something that really does motivate them. One of my children was not motivated by academics. The others were, but he got an opportunity to get a welding class and an auto mechanics class, and all of a sudden something clicked, and he did go on for a 4-year degree, but it was because something motivated him to learn, and I think we need to give children those opportunities.
Looking at those as primary issues and the things that you have done, things that you would want to do, if you were to now sort of sum up to the voters, the people whose votes you're asking for in this campaign, what would be that final message you would leave for them as to why you would hope they would vote for you?
Well, you know, I've worked for them, and I want to continue to work for them. My most important thing is to be in contact with the voters, hear their ideas, and work on those ideas. Many of the bills that we have put in place have been because of ideas that have come from the voters. We continue to do that. We also have big ideas that we need to get done, working to make sure that government works for the people rather than the other way around. It's very important that we're responsive to their needs. And we've gotten some good things done. We feel that it's very important that we get some more things done. We continue to work on issues that deal with public safety, issues with more reduction in government spending, but at the same time taking care of services that our government, that our clientele needs. So.
Well, for taking the time to discuss all of these and laying out the groundwork for what's been done and some of those goals ahead, we certainly do appreciate your time and wish you best of luck with the rest of the campaign.
Thank you very much, Dave.
And thank you for joining us as well. This has been Meet the Candidates. Our guest has been Representative Joel Johnson, Republican from State House District 97. He is seeking re-election to a second term in that office. His and all these other interviews will be going to our website, which you would have access to at WCMU.org. And for all of us here, we encourage you to get out and use your right to vote on Election Day, Tuesday, November 6th.
Thank you for joining us for Meet the Candidates. CMU Public Broadcasting invited both major party candidates for this office to participate in this series.
Hello and welcome again to this edition of Meet the Candidates. I'm David Nicholas, and we are joined this time by Chris Breznau. He is the Democratic candidate for Michigan's 97th State House District. Thanks for joining us and welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Nicholas. I appreciate it.
Good to see you. The program is called Meet the Candidates, so we always spend our first couple of moments giving the guests the chance to either get reacquainted or, in this case, introduce yourself to the voters for this district. Tell us a little bit about your background and experience that you bring to the campaign.
I've grown up in Gladwin for the last 15 years. I went to Meridian High School, but spent a lot of time with extracurricular activities incorporated in the school districts in the 97th district. And over the course of the campaign, we've been able to meet a lot of new and interesting people that have offered a lot of great ideas to make our community a better place. The Gladwin, Aranac, Clare, and part of Osceola County that represents the 97th District has a lot to offer, and to maximize those opportunities is a great thing, and we're looking forward to doing that after the election.
And you mentioned then the counties that are involved there, specific townships or whatever, as we kind of draw that map and give people an idea, that picture of District 97. Give us that recap again.
The district is 2,600 square miles, and that spans from Aranac County through Gladwin, Clare, and the majority of Osceola County. There's a few townships out of the middle of that county that aren't in the 97th district, but it's one of the largest. We have just under 100,000 people, and I think they're all ready to get to work, make sure they're holding their legislators accountable.
Well, as you've traveled then, had the chance to talk with the prospective voters, what are they telling you, and what are you identifying as the prime issues in this campaign?
The prime issues have to be jobs, education, community development. Within our campaign, we want to strive for a community organized form of events to make sure that we grow at home first. And that's working with small business owners to make sure that they have the maximum amount of opportunity to develop their business, and then hopefully getting a few of those individuals to potentially mentor new and upcoming entrepreneurs, so when they open their doors, they have their plan, they're ready to go, and they can capitalize on some of the resources within the 97th district as well. And then education, we've seen a lot of budget cuts throughout the 97th district and the state as a whole. And we have to fix that. In order to fix it means going through the budget line by line. What do we need? What don't we need? And how can we maximize the funding for K through 12 public education? And that with strong schools, with good jobs, that draws more people into the area, that builds our community and growth. And that's what we need.
When it comes to jobs, you gave the outline of looking at sort of a framework of how you would want to improve that economic climate. What are some of the other specific initiatives that you would bring to the legislative process or the planning discussion process to address the economy overall, jobs specifically statewide, but obviously focusing in on District 97?
There's been a lot of question and concern about business taxes and taxes in general in order to entice new businesses and former businesses to stay here and come to Michigan. Our tax code needs reform, and I hate to be political about that word, but we have to go through it. We have to work together, bipartisan relationships between Republicans and Democrats in order to make that happen. So it's business-friendly legislation that will be the solution for Michigan, not one side or the other that determines how we go forward.
We have gone through a big period of budget cuts and so forth to get ourselves out of the budget hole that we were in. You brought that up in terms of going through line by line of the budget when it came to the issue of education. What would be some of the first steps that you would take specifically to potentially, if I'm hearing your answer correctly, to put more money back into our schools?
It's to be specific about budgeting and what can be cut. I was just going through tax reform loopholes in some information that I have, and there's some simple things. For example, prisoners don't have to pay sales tax on their products that they purchase at a prison. There's some cooling equipment that they don't have to pay a tax on once it's in place. And so finding simple things like that will make a difference. And so it's not big things that we're after, it's how can we trim to make things more effective and efficient with the small things that we aren't using and that don't really have a significant impact on the state of Michigan.
And if we see savings there, that would be money that you would want to see shifted back into a K-12 budget and school funding?
Very much so. Public education is the key to our future. If we don't invest in our children, down the road, where are we going to be? And maximizing what they have, what their teachers have as resources and technology, it's kids and teachers and education as a whole. And incorporating vocational education, that is a must-have. And with the budget cuts, we've seen those programs set aside for future. And my grandfather was the director of voc ed at Flint Public Schools, and so I grew up understanding and going through, here's your plan, work your plan, and go forward and do the best you can. And we have to really work on that, incorporating those programs back into school so students can have a trade once they leave, and hopefully after the election we'll be able to work with other legislators, making sure that some of those voc ed classes count as college prep classes, so they're not they're able to graduate with college credit and be able to apply those if they so choose to go on to higher education.
So on that curriculum side, then looking at those revised graduation requirements that came in the prior administration that shifted us away from a lot of, and I say that because many guests have looked at that, especially from some of our northern districts, saying they've brought up the Algebra 2 requirement, they've looked at these things and saying we need to still have more of a balance and not shift everything to the one set of requirements that had been in place.
Well, so this is a discussion that I've had with a few legislators, and my grandfather included. It's taking, let's say, an electronics course, and you're using a lot of Algebra 2 within that course. So we're saying, let's go take electronics. We're going to give you the Algebra 2 requirement because you're using it, and you're going to have that college course credit, or the new curriculum credit, so you can apply that to your university.
And what about the funding model itself? Because we've seen the cycle that came through where these graduation requirements, and again, put sort of an imbalanced approach to the smaller school districts because courses were being added that then they said they didn't have money to pay for. If we shift back and put some of these vocational programs back in, we still have to take that step back and look at the overall way that the schools are being paid for. And that brings up the question that many of our guests have already said, and looking at Proposal A, the way it was structured in the 90s, what it was meant to do based on an economy then versus what we now have in 2012. Would you favor doing what with it? A new approach, revising it in some way? What would be in that overall question or specific question of school funding?
Totally revising Proposal A and the Headley Amendment. We have to make sure that we are equipped to take care of education, and with Proposal A and the Headley Amendment, we run into some roadblocks with that. Maximizing school funding to make sure that each school is on a level playing field is important, but we can't rob from a school that's put in to play practices that are maintaining that level. We can't take away from that. We have to go forward and increase our school budget so the schools then can raise as a whole, and it's not decreasing from one to pay for another.
This is another one of the districts that potentially has a cross-section of things. Just about everybody, I will say, and you have done so as well, have said jobs, education, top priorities. Others have brought up issues including the environment and agriculture as they apply to different portions. Tell us what voters are telling you and what you're seeing in District 97 on those fronts, if applicable at all, in terms of those issues being part of what you would want to look at if elected and sent to Lansing.
You're right. Jobs, education, agriculture is very large in the 97th district. We have a lot of farm fields, a lot of farmers, and to make sure that, again, they have the tools that they need for success is important. We want to maximize GAP practices, good agricultural practice, to make sure farmers have the ability to get into grocery stores, farmers markets, local produce stands, and so on and so forth. So maximizing their opportunity to sell their product is going to be really important. And getting outside source help is also going to be important. So we'll stand up for farmers, jobs, job creators, and education. Outside of that, there's terms of renewable energy and sustained energy. We've had a lot of issues with fracking in Gladwin, and that's a very large concern. So to make sure we understand things so they're clear before we go about allowing new practices to start and potentially jeopardizing our natural resources is something that we're going to take into consideration once elected.
The voters approach that and say they see it as a viable option to look at another energy source, but are they saying as you that they want to know more, or is there a push to move ahead with it? What is the position on that, or other potential energy exploration?
There are both. They want to move forward. Some want to move forward, and some want to say, whoa, hang on, this is a problem, and we need to understand it clearly. There's a difference between hydraulic fracturing and then there's horizontal hydraulic fracturing. And so to make sure that they understand those, and there's several House bills that are preventing Let me rephrase. They're making sure that fracturing is understood, and that's House Bill 5150, 5151, and I believe there's another one, 5149. Sorry, those are out of order, but there's a lot of representatives that support it just because it allows us to completely understand the process before we move forward. And I think that's something that you have to do with all legislation in general, and being able to present it to your constituents as well. So clarity above all and a high degree of communication will determine how effective our legislators can be.
Other issues then? We have just a few moments left before we get to sort of a sum up, but anything else that they have highlighted to you, and even if it's a list of issues without as much explanation of those, but other things that they're bringing to your attention that they would like to see you as a potential lawmaker take on if you are elected?
Roads, infrastructure, making sure our park and rec areas are up to snuff to make sure that they're all usable. We have a lot of parks in our area and a lot of ORV trails where I had some constituents come and say, Chris, we want to be able to ride our four-wheelers more freely and our horses, and so to examine things like that to make sure that everyone can go out and use what we have to offer in terms of our outdoor accessibility is going to be really important. I'm an avid backpacker, and I like going outdoors, so it means a lot to have those things, and I want to make sure everybody else can use them as well.
A number of things that you've had the chance then to go through and express your view and what the voters are telling you. If in the last 30 seconds then you had to sum it all up, give the voters that final message of why you would be asking for their vote, what would that final message to the voters be?
I am asking for their vote, and a legislator is supposed to clearly provide the representation to the community, not to a specific party. I want to be as bipartisan as possible, and it's sometimes unfortunate that you have to pick a side, but I have done a lot with the Democratic Party, and I'm proud of what we've been able to accomplish. But making sure that as a representative, these are the facts, this is the information that I have, and I want to be able to provide that to you. And I've spent a lot of time talking with constituents about the proposals, for example, and well, this is what I have and this is what I know, and I'm all about hearing you and understanding your position and developing ideas from there. So to make it a community-based campaign, we've set up focus groups, consortiums in each of the counties, and that's where they can hear their questions, concerns, present new ideas, and we can really try and develop great legislation from home. So it's not about party politics here. It's about developing great legislation, great relationships between the community members and me as their representative. And that's what I would like to see. Just like they hold me accountable, I want to hold them accountable as well. And it can be fun, and it's a great way to help the state. So.
Well, thank you very much for taking the time to speak on all of these, speak directly to the voters as well. We appreciate your time, and good luck with the rest of the campaign.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
And thank you for your time and attention as well. Here on Meet the Candidates, our guest has been Chris Breznau. He is the Democratic candidate for the 97th State House District here in Michigan. All of these segments being posted to our website at WCMU.org, and we always close with our reminder that on behalf of all of us, we urge you to exercise your right to go out and vote. Go to the polls on Tuesday, November 6th.
This has been Meet the Candidates, a production of CMU Public Broadcasting. Both major party candidates were invited to participate in this series. For a complete listing of the air dates and times for this series, or to watch or listen to this program again, go to our website, WCMU.org.
Support of WCMU is provided by Flint Institute of Arts, presenting Drawing Together International Cartoons. The exhibition features 300 cartoons from the Iden Foundation International Competition and runs through December 30th. FlintArts.org.